Okay, my introduction for the next plenary speaker will be rather short because we're running a little bit behind time. Quiet, please. Quiet at the back. Okay, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce Saul Nassé. He is the Chief Executive of Cambridge English Language Assessment, and it's a pleasure to have him here in Mexico. He also visited us at our center yesterday, which I say thank you for, and we look forward very much actually to hearing your talk. Saul Nassé.
Buenos dias. Alternative facts, lies and deception, post-truth. Oxford Dictionary's made post-truth their word of the year for 2016. Apparently, post-truth usage went up by 2,000% last year alone. That's quite some increase for a phrase we'd barely heard of a couple of years ago. Post-truth, the idea that facts are out the window, that prejudice is in, that lies are what we live by. Well, I'm going to say something that's both simultaneously controversial and, I hope, comforting. Post-truth is a big lie. Yeah, the irony of it, the notion of post-truth is a great big lie. Because the truth is, the whole premise of post-truth is fundamentally flawed. To talk about a post-truth era implies that there was once an era of truth. So when was that? The age when the world was flat? The age when leeches were the cure for everything? The age of Machiavelli? The age of Henry VIII? The age of Richard Nixon? The truth is that deception, alternative facts, if you like, has been around for as long as there's been communication. In ancient Greece, the sophists even gave training courses in how to lie. So forget all this stuff about post-truth. My argument is the opposite, where some people are filled with negativity and pessimism about this modern age. I'm filled with excitement and hope. I believe we're actually living in an age of unprecedented truth, of unparalleled intelligence and insight. It's a post-truth world where we all have the facts right at our fingertips in this digital world we live in. Now, every time Donald Trump speaks, every time Vladimir Putin speaks, their comments are instantly subjected to challenge and debate online. I Googled, is Donald Trump wrong on climate change this morning? I got more than 2 million results. In the past, when the President of the United States said, it just went as fact, anything he said. Now, nothing goes unchallenged. The era of unchallenged talk is gone for good, thanks to this digitization of the world we live in. And it goes much bigger than just checking a Wikipedia page or running a speech through politifacts.com. People have access to a massive wealth of published data, of learned journals they can sift through themselves. This post-control world is one where facts have become democratized. But the digital revolution goes much further than old facts being at people's fingertips. We're now deep in the data revolution, where new facts are being revealed simply from mining the vast tracts of data that are being created in this always-on, always connected world that we now live in. IBM estimates that 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created every day. That's the equivalent, if you can imagine it, of 100 million Blu-ray discs every single day. IBM also estimates that 90% of the world's current data was created just in the last 2 years. And by crunching that data, we can get some of the most astonishing insights. We can use data to predict and understand trends in health, crime, energy consumption, transport use, food, the environment, and it's leading the whole human race to become much smarter. Data helps us to go boldly to places the brain has never been before. We're not living in a world of post-truth. We're living in a world of data-assisted truth. Let me pose a question to you. Who's the first person to know a woman is pregnant? Is it the woman herself? Her partner? Maybe her doctor? Well, these days it's often her supermarket. It all started when a supermarket chain found they could detect slight shifts in a woman's purchasing patterns almost immediately after conception. Some of them were pretty predictable. For instance, a slight increase in the amount of fruit and vegetables that were bought. Others were less easy to explain. There was a certain propensity towards buying products in green packaging. Now, no one could explain the causal relationship, but in the world of data, the facts don't lie. They simply worked back 9 months from the date that thousands of women first bought nappies in the supermarket and looked at the change in the patterns, the power of data. And there are heaps of other examples in this world of data-assisted truth. Let's look at one that's closer to our own world. There's an academic called James Pennebaker who works at the University of Texas at Austin. He's spent his life analyzing the different use of language between men and women. He is, if you like, the Sherlock Holmes of language. He's discovered, for instance, how women use more first-person pronouns than men. Men use more articles, women use more verbs, social and cognitive words, and men use more nouns, numbers, big words, and swear words, or in my case, a number of big swear words. He's found that all out by looking at massive data sets of language, and he's used those insights to develop an analytical tool. This is now able to say with some accuracy whether the author of a text is a man or a woman. He put 100,000 blog posts through this tool, and it was able to say with 72% accuracy whether the author was a man or a woman. This rose to 76% when the topics covered in the blogs were also taken into account. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty impressive figure. When he asked real people the same question, whether the author was a man or a woman, the result was much worse. So the machines do a better job than the humans. There are all sorts of buzzwords flying around in this brave new world. The semantic web, machine learning, the Internet of Things, and buzziest of all, big data. The good news is that all these powerful new sciences are making their mark in the world that we know and love, the world of language learning. And I'd argue the opportunity for us is not so much in the big data space, but thinking about the right data, using all these wonderful new techniques, but applying the knowledge and understanding that we've built as language teachers, as assessment experts. That's why, for me, data-assisted truth has the ring of truth to it. The data are already out there. Take Cambridge English. We generate 500 million marks a year. 500 million, I mean, it sounds impossible. But we do 5 million exams a year. There's on average 100 marks per exam. That's where you get to, 500 million marks. Take a look at this. Jeremy had poetry. What I've got is an Excel spreadsheet. So this is a small representative data set for a typical Cambridge English First listening test. It's not live data, but it does contain 900 pieces of data that's generated by 30 candidates answering 30 questions. What we've got are candidates running up the y-axis, going from bottom to top, and we've got questions running along the x-axis, running from left to right. And when I mentioned 500 million marks, this is what most of them look like. Simple binary data. So a 0 marks an incorrect mark, and we've highlighted that in red. A 1 marks a correct answer, and we've highlighted that in green. So this is just data, plain and simple. What we've done is listed the candidates sequentially by candidate number. So we go from 5,005 down to 5,999. And going along from left to right, we have the questions in the order that they appeared in the exam. And at this stage, no patterns are visible. It's all data, no truth. To get to the data-assisted truth, we have to ask the right questions. And we do that by crunching the data through one of our 40 statistical models. Now, obviously, the first question that asked by anyone involved with an exam is how well did the candidates do? So what we can do is ask the spreadsheet to reorder the data so that we put the best performing candidate at the top and the worst performing one at the bottom. If we do that, I think you'll start to see a different pattern. So let's sort our rows like that. Suddenly you can see something in the data. You're starting to get the green all appearing at the top of the spreadsheet where our best performing candidates are. The wrong answers clustering in the bottom half with the less successful candidates. But we actually get an even clearer and more striking pattern if we sift the data in another way. We're going to keep the best candidate on the top, as we did before. We're going to keep the worst candidate at the bottom. But what we're going to do is juggle the questions. So we're going to put the questions in the order of the one people were most successful with on the left and the one people were least successful with on the right. So let's just do the column sort. You get another change in the patterns. You're starting to see more data-assisted truth. Green towards the top left, red towards the bottom right. So what we see on the left of the chart, where the questions are easiest, it's only the worst candidates at the bottom that are getting them wrong. On the right of the chart, where the questions are the hardest, even some of the best candidates at the top here are getting them wrong. And what that shows is that the questions are doing a good job at discriminating between candidates according to their ability. But there's already something that looks weird. I'm guessing some of you will have already spotted it. If you look in the middle at the top here, we've got what I can see are questions 21 and 27. And they're kind of outliers from this picture of green towards the top left and red towards the bottom right. I'll highlight those for you. Because what's going on with those questions is the candidates who are doing well towards the top are getting the question wrong. Candidates who are doing badly at the bottom are more often getting the question right. And we don't like that sort of question. That's a question that's not performing. Those two questions aren't doing what we need to do. And that's why we use these techniques to pre-test all of our questions. We subject them to this kind of analysis because we've got to be confident that the exams are providing accurate, fair results which give a clear, reliable picture of every candidate's true ability in English. There's another unexpected pattern hidden in this data test. I'm going to highlight another, in this case, row to give you some candidates. You might not have noticed it when I had all of the data up, but these three candidates have got an uncannily similar set of answers going on. And that really starts to worry us. That raises a question that maybe some sort of malpractice is taking place. So what we do then as a matter of course is run further statistical analysis to see if we can find any further patterns by assembling the right data. So for example, what we do is compare every candidate's answer with all the other candidates, pair by pair. So we'll compare candidate 1 against candidate 2, and then against 3, and so on. And in this sample of just 30 candidates, that ends up generating 435 different pairs. So imagine when we're doing a session of thousands, you quite quickly get into millions of pairs. But with the power of these data tools, we can look at the analysis of those different pairs. Now, you're linguists. Brace yourself for some deeper mathematics. We're going to go to another chart that takes a bit of explaining. This is how we start zeroing in on malpractice. So what you've got here on this chart is along the bottom is the average number of wrong answers for any pair of candidates. So if in a pair of candidates one has got 10 wrong and the other's got 20 wrong, the average of that pair is 15. So they're plotted along there. What we then look at up the other axis is what's the number of common wrong answers for that pair. Because common wrong answers is what we're looking for when it comes to malpractice. They tell you much more that something's going wrong than if it's common right answers. And as soon as you've got that, again, you start to see things going a bit awry. If you're eagle-eyed, you'll see at the top there in the middle some real outliers. we've highlighted them in red. So you see they're there in the middle. And those guys, for the average number of wrong answers that they've got, there are significantly more that are in common. So that's where we immediately look and think there's good statistical evidence of collusion going along here. That's where we found the right data, but it's not where we finish. We want the data-assisted truth. We need the human intervention. Because when we find unusual patterns like that, that's relating to candidate or item performance, we always investigate the cause. We never just rely wholly on data, because it doesn't give us the complete answer. We play in human expertise and judgment to help interpret the evidence. Data helps us make informed decisions, but data alone is never enough. It really is data-assisted truth. Cambridge English has always collected data, but until relatively recently, it was a laborious and time-consuming process. With the advent of purely digital products, data has become much easier to collate, and analyze. In January, we changed the technology behind our Test Your English web pages, and it's enabled us to view huge amounts of data very quickly. Here's some of our output. So you can see here, and this is just since January, 472,129 tests have been taken. 8,335,935 questions have been answered. 5,156,146 correct answers have been given, and there's been an average score of 10.92. That's a lot of data. And as soon as you get data of that size, you can start delving into it to reveal those data-assisted truths that give us more information. So one of the more difficult questions on Test Your English is this one. It was only 10 days ago, ... that she started a new job. The answers are then, since, after, and that. Of course, the correct answer is it was only 10 days ago that she started a new job. So let's look at how people responded to that question. So this, to start with, is all learners at all levels. And so you're seeing only, just around a quarter of people are getting that, the correct answer, right. It's not surprising because it's quite a difficult one. But if we delve in a little further, we'll see more interesting patterns. Let's go to a chart of answers of learners below A2. So across the whole test, this was learners who were below A2 level. If you look at this, it's almost equal for each of the possible answers. So actually, at that level, candidates are pretty much just guessing. So you're getting virtually 25% each. Now let's move on to people who were scoring across the test at the B1 level. See what we get to then. Look at this. Overwhelming answers for since. It's more than 3/4 of our answers. And that's because at that level, learners are getting past tense constructions, and lots of those constructions will have involved since, and they default to that being the answer. I mean, it's weird because it's like a little knowledge is a powerful thing. They're doing worse than the A1 learners who were just doing it on chance. Then we move up to the C2 learners, and that's where the majority have acquired the it was ... ago, that construction. And they're getting the right answer overwhelmingly right. So the right data can help us gain really personal insights, like we saw on the performance around malpractice. But it can also give us insights into a much sort of larger, wider level of performance. One other trick we can pull with our data is to take individual exam results to look at skills profiles at a national level. Now, this is territory where I think you need to tread very carefully to find the right data to get you to that data-assisted truth. Then you've got to add in some meaningful expert interpretation. Simple rankings on their own are not useful or meaningful. You're then skating on the thin ice of post-truth. I'm sure you're familiar with the PISA studies, but the OECD, the authors of the study, warned that the big data generated from test results must be used in conjunction with additional contextual information such as descriptive data, research findings, and practitioner knowledge. That's the only way you'll generate insight that can really improve practice at the level of the individual classroom. And that requires skill and understanding of which data is important and why. Data can, I think, help to shape policy at a national level. It can also help to plan effective teaching at a school and class level. And it can help teachers to spot and prioritize areas for improvement. But it's only going to do this if it's good data, and it has to be used properly. Otherwise, it can lead to bad decisions and discourage teachers and learners, and it can lead to negative learning experiences. We've all seen the global league tables which claim to rank countries in their use of language according to average scores of people who take a quick online test without testing their speaking skills. And these usually put Latin American countries low down on the ranking. It's great publicity for the organizations involved. It's great fun for journalists, but what do those sorts of surveys actually tell us? I'll stick my neck out and say, next to nothing. You have to know much more about the participants and to understand the nature of your data before it can be of any use. Where the data really starts to become useful is when we look at the relative strengths and weaknesses by skill, level, and age. That's when we start to discover the data-assisted truth that can give us useful insights. For example, at Cambridge English, we test all 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Which do you think is the strongest skill for Latin America? Speaking, you're right. It's a general pattern worldwide, and it happens largely when you look at our data, because people who are sitting Cambridge English exams know that in order to succeed, they really need to practice their speaking skills, which in turn means when they're preparing for their exam, they're learning the skills that they need to really learn English effectively. And that's where I think having the right sort of test that's testing the right sort of things will actually push the learning in the right direction. It will push people towards that communicative style of English that we know is really important. I don't think it's teaching to the test, but it is having the right sort of test that imbues the right sort of learning in the classroom. If we look at the data, what's interesting is while speaking is on average, the strongest skill across the world, there is quite a lot of variation from country to country. For instance, Mexico is strong on speaking, with scores at B1 and B2 that are in line with Italy and France, and significantly ahead of Spain. And a lot of this is down to systematic efforts by the state governments we work with and by teachers in lots of individual schools to really encourage students to speak English, and we know that that can be a struggle. We also see relatively high rankings for speaking in other countries in the region. So Argentina and Brazil do well at level B1, while at C1, Argentina, Peru, and especially Chile score really highly. And that's just one example of the kind of data we have available due to this massive amount of data that we collect. And what we want to do is make it available to policymakers and educators across the world, letting everyone harness the right data to get to that world of data-assisted truth. What's getting more interesting in the world of language learning are the kind of data that start to be generated as digital suffuses every aspect of students' learning journeys, especially in the classroom, where it's now possible for teachers to gain insights into their students' work that they wouldn't have done before. Let's look at an example. At the heart of communicative language learning, teaching and assessment is the notion of the task. Let's just remind ourselves for a moment what the process is for task-based learning. A learning objective is set for the learner, prior knowledge is checked, and so is the learner's understanding of the task. The learner then undertakes an activity around language which is observed by the teacher, who interprets the language that's been produced against the goal. The teacher then decides which feedback to give, whether to change the method of instruction and the goal. The teacher corrects errors, offers guidance, and gives support. So you get this wonderful virtual circle where the output of language activity is shaping the input of the next activity. And it creates an opportunity for teachers and learners to repeat, extend, and improve performance outcomes. But I've actually missed one step out, and that's this really important piece, which is the record-keeping part of the process. It's a key part of the process, but But in the traditional classroom, it's probably the hardest thing to do. You've got time constraints, you've got the practicalities of recording language production as it's being formed. But if you bring digital technology in, you can record in real time, as it happens, learning and performance. It's here in that middle of the task cycle, at the heart of learning, that I think digital technology can make the real difference and be transformative. It closes that circle and accelerates learning. It allows evidence for learning to flow freely and acts as a catalyst to convert outputs into inputs. This evidence for learning takes many forms. It can be the kind of diagnostic profile test that can be generated by a student's score while they're progressing. It can be the sort of test that we use in our product Empower, for instance, where we have a learning management system that lets people do progress tests as they get along. But it will, I think, go bigger than that. As we move into this world of the Internet of Things, where almost everything is data-enabled, we'll get to a place where the learning can be captured, recorded, and replayed, everything in the classroom. Learners will be watching videos of their speaking, reflecting with their peers on their performance. We'll get the self-reflection turned into a virtuous circle as learners become better learners, more motivated and taking ownership. Evidence for learning helps us to personalize learning according to individual learners' needs, to see what students can and can't do, how they learn, what works for them and what doesn't. Goals, tasks, and instruction can be scaffolded and adjusted to maximize learning opportunities. It's within what Vygotsky calls the zone of proximal development, between tasks that are too easy on the left or too boring, and too easy or too boring on the left, or just too hard and going to be frustrating on the right. If you get the right data, you can pilot your way down the middle of that road. Now, so far, what I've been talking about is what we humans can learn from digital data. But one of the most exciting developments, I think, made possible in this world of data-assisted truth is what happened when the machines start learning, the dawn of artificial intelligence. And it's a dawn that's breaking in our world. So what is it a computer can learn to do? What does this have to do with language learning? Let's take a look at this.
How can you train a machine or computer program to accurately evaluate the level of a learner's writing? Well, first you need to give the machine many examples of learners' writing and tell it the level of English for each piece of writing. For this, we use the Cambridge Learner Corpus, which is made up of exam scripts and 60 million words. The corpus is unique because it only contains examples of learners' written English, which is coded for over 80 different types of errors and mapped onto the CEFR. The machine is programmed to extract features from the scripts, such as sentence structure, errors, and word combinations. Because the machine knows the CEFR level of each script, it can associate the patterns of features that correspond to different CEFR levels. The machine then applies what it has learnt to new scripts by using a sophisticated algorithm. An algorithm is a set of instructions. The algorithm methodically searches a script for features to identify up to 7,000 features and patterns. The machine can then map the script's feature pattern to the CEFR. The technical term for this process is Annotated Data-Driven Supervised Machine Learning. That is how you create an artificial intelligence which can evaluate learners' writing.
So that's your quick primer in how machine learning can work in the world of English language learning. What I'm going to do is take you now to an example where we can see this happening in practice. This is something that we've worked on called Write and Improve, and it's an instant way for students to practice written English. It uses the underlying technology that you saw in that film, which is cutting edge, but it ends up creating something that's really simple to use. It's something that's free, it's out there on the internet, anyone can use it, and it lets students complete a series of writing tasks. When they finish the writing, which they do in their own time, they can submit the writing, and the system will automatically give them feedback. It gives them a proficiency level based on the CFR, and it also gives advice on how they can improve their writing. So based on that feedback, they can try again, resubmit some more writing, and do it as many times as they want. So students write and they improve, hence the name. So let's have a look at this for real. I'm going to risk a live demo. As you can see on the home page, there's a whole series of tasks from beginner through to intermediate, advanced, particular workbooks around particular exams. But what I'm going to do is head straight to something that we've saved, which is here earlier. Now, what this is a question that's around making a video. So the prompt, which we've got here, is around your English class is going to make a short video about daily life at your school. Your teacher's asked you to write a report suggesting which lesson should be filmed and why. Write your report. So quite a detailed prompt. Now, I'm a native English speaker and an ex-TV producer, so I think my writing ought to be good enough, so I'm not going to write something in. What I've already done is put in here in the window where the student makes their entry some text, which is a typical kind of B1 level learner's text, so it's got some mistakes in it. Already, though, we're getting some feedback. If you look at the green box there, it says 176 words entered. For this task, you should enter between 150 and 190. You've written enough, well done. So already it's starting to feel interactive. So what I can do now is hit the check button, and the algorithms start working away in the background, looking at all that stuff that they've got from the corpus and using that to come up with the feedback. Oh, ping. I've got a badge. We've used here some techniques from games to help incentivize people. So I've got a badge there for my first check task award, which is great. And I can go through, continue to feedback. So on the right-hand side there now is the feedback that I'm getting. There's something that describes the overall task. It says, great, your writing level is B1. Now try to improve your writing to raise your level. Use the feedback to revise your writing, then click check again, and good luck. And what you can see there is a variety of different sorts of feedback. There's word level feedback, and that's where these particular highlighted items appear. So there's a little red triangle there, there's some blue dots as well. But there's also sentence level feedback. So the first sentence there is in white. That means the system saying that the sentence is absolutely fine, nothing that can really be improved on. But then the darker the highlight, the more work that each of the sentences need to do. So let's delve in and see what some of the suggestions are there. So we've got a little red triangle here. What does that say? Missing word? Did you forget something before this word? Do you need to add a or something similar? So it was saying, I think it will be a good idea. So if we go back and put an A in there, that should improve things a bit. What's this one here? Wrong word? You may need a different word. The text here has got a and lot turned into one word, and the system's suggesting you may need a different word, perhaps a lot with the space is better. So let's go in and put that space in. Let's click on our next thing. Word ending. The end of this word is unusual. We've got activities with a YS instead of an IES. It's very kind, the feedback here. The end of the wording is unusual. We're trying to keep people encouraged. So let's go in and find that activities and put an E in. So we've made some changes based on the feedback. We can hit the check button again. It chunters away in the background. This is all happening over the cloud. And it will give us some feedback of where we've got to now. Level still B1. Keep trying. Read your writing again and study the feedback. Pay extra attention to the yellow sentences. Make changes and click check again. So what have we got here? They will want to come. Maybe to come is better. So let's get that into there. Sorry, I need to get a space in there. And they will see the students are happy to, so there's a 2 that should be a double O there. And what are we saying at the end? There are a lot of trees and grass and flowers, and 4, relax. So the word form of that is better. Perhaps relaxing is better. So let's get that relax and change it into relaxing. So we've made quite a few changes there. Let's do another check again. It's working away, seeing what it makes of it now. I wonder whether I've done enough yet to change the level. Oh, I'm still at B1. Darn. I'm going to give. It still doesn't. Oh, it's because I've misspelt activities. You see. Let's get that I back in there and see what we can do. I'm determined to get to B2 before I finish this demo. Oh, I've got a badge. That's because I've asked for 3 improvements in a row. Continue to feedback. Oh, enjoin. One more thing. This tells you that I've not rehearsed this. Let's turn that enjoin into an enjoy. Check it again. And let's see where we get to. B2, done it. Brilliant. And the nice thing is, if you look at the bottom, we get a progress chart. So that's shown in those different attempts that I've made as I've tracked through the system. We got the big leap when I did those chunky changes that got me close to B2. But then, those last 2 where I only changed a word at a time, you can see it slow down. We've done another thing that's a bit different with this, which is another use of big data. And it's a brand new feature that we've released today for us to have a look at. We want learners to experiment and develop their writing. We don't want them to repeat set phrases. So we've introduced something called prompt relevance. And that's about, does the answer that people have given match the question? It's a really interesting approach, and it's a different way of using right data. Now, this prompt relevance uses something that's a technique called distributional semantics. So brace yourself again, this is another complicated one. So what the system does here is it looks at the prompt and it breaks it down into the stem words. So it strips away the ands and ifs and buts, the stuff that that's in any bit of written work, and looks at the stem of the words that left. So a word like filming would become film. A word like walked would become walk. What it then does is heads off to one of the biggest data sets in the world, and that's Wikipedia. Now, the content on Wikipedia is not always 100% correct. I used to be a journalist at the BBC, and we were quite anti-Wikipedia in some ways. But what you can't deny is it's an amazing resource. It's lots of user-generated content with literally thousands and thousands of words that sit alongside thousands and thousands of other words. So what the software does is break Wikipedia down into stem words in the same way as it did with the prompt, and then looks to see what other stem words a word is associated with. So if you look at a word like film, it would tend to occur alongside things like movie, watch, actor, director, Hollywood, action, those kind of things. And the word movie would, for instance, never really appear alongside avocado. So that's something that wouldn't be associated. So what the system does then is it goes back to what the learner has written in response to the prompt. It strips the response down to the stem words, and it looks to see if the stem words in the prompt go with the stem words that are in the answer, according to the relations that it's established by looking at the Wikipedia piece. So if there's lots of words that you'd expect to find in response to the prompt, you get a high prompt relevance score. If there are very few, you get a low prompt relevance score. So in this example we've done, we're scoring a 5. So did you write about the question 5 is best, which is great because the writing absolutely was about that. What I'm going to do is copy in another bit of prompt. Are you spotting an error that's still left there? It's never 100% perfect. The question down here is that someone spotted that there was something that was remaining in there as a thing that wasn't corrected. The truth is, it's an automated system. It never gets 100% correct. It's also the case that pedagogically, we're not necessarily going to point out every single error to the student, much in the same way as a teacher wouldn't. So we're not trying to turn it into a Microsoft Word grammar and fact checker. The utility in it is meant to be the feedback that you get. So if I paste in a piece of work that's actually something about the environment and check again, this is before any corrections have been done it, so I suspect I'll probably be dropping back down to B1. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, back to B1. I'm not going to correct all that stuff. But what you can also see is I've talked about the environment in response to a question that's about video, and my prompt relevance has gone right down to 1. So that's a new thing that we're able to do, again, thanks to the power of data. Now, as I was just saying in response to the question there, what Write and Improve doesn't aim to do is give too much feedback in one go. You know, if you end up with something with red pen all over it, that's going to be demotivating and counterproductive. So we tend to give initial feedback, and then actually if you'd watched closely as I went through, there were some things that didn't pop up at first that then popped up later. So you get surrounding errors that appear, and they do that at the moment where it's most possible and appropriate, because we want people to stay motivated and engaged. In summary, the system is designed to be really encouraging. We want the encouragement to be personalized and adaptive, and we focus that on how we give the feedback. The feedback is designed there to be pretty encouraging. So if you look, for instance, at what we might do for a learner at the got our film again there, at the A1 level, it will be very simple. This is a good start. Now improve your writing, read the feedback, make changes, and click again. Whereas when you get up to the C2 level, we're trying to give something that's more intricate, a bit more challenging. C2, your writing's excellent. We advise you to practice writing in many different genres and styles. You can afford to take risks and then check the results. Keep learning. You can use Start Again to start a whole new essay, or return to workbooks to try a different task. Keep on writing and keep on improving. So that's how this thing is working. We don't do this all in an automated way. A section of our responses are cross-checked by human annotators. They're sometimes called humanators, and they teach the algorithm about some of the subtleties that it may never have seen before and reinforce where it's performing well. In this way, you've got a virtuous circle that's being created where users are learning from the algorithm, which in turn learns from the users. I mean, that's another interesting response to the question about, you know, something that still wasn't quite found there. Part of that's about not covering the thing in red. Part of it is the system is still learning. So that's the cute thing with machine learning. The more people that use this, the better it gets. It's sort of anti-intuition, but that's how machine learning works. Since September, we've had 1 million pieces of writing that have been submitted and checked. The average student takes on board the feedback and improves on each check by about 5% of a CEFR level. You get the biggest gains with A1, A2 students, and it becomes harder to gain the more you're checked. So it's like I was showing on that example, you get quite a sort of acceleration of improvement, then it levels off slightly. I think what it does that's really nice is it helps users with really, really simple, common, repeated errors. And that can start to free up the teacher to concentrate on the things that they're going to be best at: discourse, or argumentation, nuance, and so on. So this is a great example of using data in very different ways. So there's the massive data that comes from the corpus that feeds the machine learning. There's the human annotation that adds sophistication to the artificial intelligence. There's that massive user-generated data set from Wikipedia that gives us the prompt relevance. And then there's the logic that connects the data around performance to the appropriate feedback. It's kind of like a case study for the world of data-assisted truth. So sometimes people get worried about this. Does this mean that machines and artificial intelligence will be the teachers of tomorrow? I'd say absolutely and resolutely not. I think these technologies are going to be the assistant to the teachers of the future. They'll give teachers more time to teach and learners more time to learn. I'm absolutely passionate about digital technology, but I'm not for a moment advocating a paperless classroom or suggesting that you throw away course books. Far from it. We saw earlier from the data how well your students are learning in your classrooms and performing in exams. What you do as teachers works. What I'm hoping I've done in this presentation is show you some insights and some ideas about how data is changing the world you teach in. Because the world needs teachers, the world needs you, and the world is short of teachers. Some estimates predict we need 25 million new teachers by 2020. There's 1.5 billion people learning English across the world. Less than a quarter of those have access to formal instruction. So there's a thought there about how we reach learners without access to teachers. And that's a challenge for all of us in the world of English language learning. And here I think technology can help us reach out. And I'm going to show you one more thing that we've been experimenting with. It's something called Quiz Your English. And it's an app that we've launched recently in partnership with Bravi from Brazil. And this is something that's on your phone. It uses data in the most modern of ways. That's in a social media context. If we can get my phone up on the screen there, we'll start to demonstrate it. So it's something called Quiz Your English, and we log onto it by clicking onto it there. Get started. What I can do is log in with Facebook. So you know it's really plugged into this data world that we're all living in. Confirm my login. You know, the headline is there, practice English with friends. That's what this is all about. So there I am. It's found my Facebook profile. I've played this a few times before. I haven't done very well. I'm currently ranked 12,861st in the world, which is not terribly good. I heard yesterday Gerardo from the Anglo in Montevideo had been top of Uruguay for a few weeks. So you know, if you get on here, you can get onto the leaderboard. And there's a whole host of different challenges and topics here that you can have a go at. And it's basically a very kind of gamified approach to English quizzing. They're based on questions that we use in our exams, but in a more kind of fun and competitive environment. So I'm going to go into this random mix one. So there I am on top left, and it's searching for an opponent for me on the bottom. Israel Molina from Mexico. He's unranked currently, right? I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible. So you'll just have to watch, right? One adult and two children at the end of the row, if possible, please. What is the speaker buying? Shoes? No, wrong. That would have, theatre tickets, darn. Got beaten on that one. Mind you, my opponent doesn't seem to have got it. There's a bit of a breeze, so it'd be fun to go sailing. The speaker thinks the ... is suitable for sailing. Weather? Yes. Question 3. Above all, it's because I've never been to Australia. The speaker is explaining a decision. Yes. Surrender. Oh no, your opponent seems to have surrendered. I have never seen that before. The last time I demonstrated it, I got beaten by a young woman from Spain, so that was a much better result for it. So it's great fun. It's very much in this world of data as well. If you want to challenge me, and you'll probably beat me, and I'm sure none of you would surrender, come and catch me in the break. You could use Quiz Your English in the classroom too. I mean, you could use it for pair work. You could get students finishing a task ahead of the rest of the class. We've done research around this area. We've worked with Dr. David Gradol in Mexico, and he's shown that students get excited and engaged when they're allowed to use their phones in class. You know, by the end of last week, we'd had an amazing 1.345 million games of this played. If you think of a minute a game, this little app has provided 22,000 hours, nearly 2.5 years of lexico-grammatical skills practice for learners. And I haven't even talked about the amount of data that's created. So this is what technology can do for us. This is what a good idea, some good content, and a smartphone can achieve. It can be hard to appreciate the value of technology, appreciate how things are changing. The head of the British Post Office said in the 19th century, "The Americans might have need for a telephone, but we do not." A famous newspaper editor in the UK, C.P. Scott, said when the television was first invented, "No good can possibly come of it." And famously, Thomas Watson of IBM said after the war, "I think there is a world market for maybe 5 computers." So there's only one certainty when it comes to predicting the future, particularly when it comes to predicting the future of technology. You will be wrong. But I'm as certain can be that we're not living in a post-truth world. The search for data-assisted truth is happening all around us. Finding the right data and learning from it is changing our lives like never before. And it's truly exciting. And the most exciting part for me is that these intoxicating new data techniques that I've talked about today are already being applied in the world that we know and love so much, the world of language learning. Language learning is, right in the mainstream of this work that's happened. As you've seen today, it's helping us design the right questions and find cheats. It's helping us reveal patterns across the levels that we've not seen before, looking at how performance varies from country to country, helping machines learn, and creating games that power learning. In education, we're looking to the future, not the past. We're moving forward, not backward. We're helping society move ever more into the light. Today, we're at the dawning of a new era when we can achieve unparalleled knowledge, unparalleled learning, unparalleled insight. It's up to all of us to grasp this opportunity, not to let it slip through our fingers. So let's grab the right data, search for data-assisted truth, and be part of this wonderful new world. And by the way, just going back to the beginning, how did post-truth get to be Oxford's word of the year? Even with a hyphen, it looks very much like 2 words to me. That's how it is. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saul. Okay, we will now have a coffee break, and after the coffee break, the talks will begin again at midday. So you have approximately 45 minutes. You should give yourself approximately 10 minutes